just 4 years ago. You bet. When Aaron Rodgers led the NFL in total QBR, he won his 4th MVP award, but of course he fell to 26 in QBR the following season, missed most of 2023 with the Achilles, and was 25th in his final year with those Jets before going to Pittsburgh. Rodgers hoping to get back to his old self with the Steelers. Will get the opportunity to play with DK Metcalf.
DK is a lead by example guy, and he's a big reason that I'm in Pittsburgh as well.
Hell yeah.
Conversations that we had, and just the kind of person that he is. And it started here. I didn't really know DK at all, and he's like, I work out at 6 a.m. every day. I'm like, okay, already. This guy has discipline. This guy has a drive. He's not just a specimen, but he's a really solid human being. Like he is a solid dude, and he leads by example. The way he practices. And that's, I think, one of the most encouraging things is the room goes how the top dog goes. And when DK catches the ball and finishes 60 yards to the end zone, it makes everybody else want to do the same thing.
All right, both guys in their first year with the Steelers. Field, what are your expectations for that connection?
Yeah, Hannah, I'd say that my offensive expectations for Pittsburgh are a little bit murky, but I do think they look up. If this team does something a bit differently than the way they approached the game last year, I felt like throughout much of last season, the Steelers just wanted to run the football, control the clock, and play championship-level defense, where the second half of their schedule revealed that's not good enough for them when they played the more difficult teams. DK Metcalf doesn't just lead by example, as Aaron Rodgers said. He leads in terms of explosiveness, as no player had more 20-plus yard completions last season. Aaron Rodgers was tied for the 8th most completions of 20 or more yards in the NFL last year, and tied for 14th in terms of completion percentages on those throws down the field. Aaron Rodgers is certainly a capable downfield thrower. I want to see this team, who, by the way, forked over a $150+ million extension to DK Metcalf as part of the trade, say we are putting our money where our mouth is, and say we're going to feature this player down the field who inarguably is one of the most unique in this entire regard in the league, because when you're playing the Baltimores and the Kansas Cities and the Buffaloes of the AFC, just playing great defense isn't enough. You have to be complementary in offense, and the Steelers showed down the stretch last year they simply weren't close enough to that.
Yeah, and there are still some lingering questions, Field. Is the offensive line going to be good enough? Are they going to be able to count on the rookie running back, Caleb Johnson? On the defensive side of the ball, those guys are getting a little bit older. It probably looks like one of the older starting defenses in the league. So there are questions other than about Aaron Rodgers and the passing game. But in terms of Rodgers and DK Metcalf, and talking a little bit this summer to their offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, he was saying he and Rodgers were in contact throughout the process prior to Rodgers signing, checking in periodically throughout the spring, talking about what the offense would look like. Obviously, they knew they would have DK, so they've discussed how to use him. So it should be a collaboration, I think, between Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers that'll really get ramped up once they get to training camp. Minicamp was not about Aaron Rodgers on the field making throws. He was getting acclimated to the place. He signed just a couple days before that minicamp. They wanted to see Will Howard, the rookie, get some reps in minicamp. But once they get to training camp, I think we'll start to see how this offense takes shape with Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, let's hope that is a collaboration, Dan, because we have seen in the past Aaron Rodgers not be on the same page with his coaches in terms of play calling. All right, time now for some top stories. Let's stay there in Pittsburgh. T.J. Watt, Graz, what do we know?
T.J. Watt, 1 year left on his contract, looking for a contract extension, still doesn't have one. Go back to the last time this happened with T.J. Watt. He attended training camp, but he didn't really do any on-field work until the contract was done, which was only a couple of days before the start of the regular season. So if history is any indication, this is a situation that could drag out a little while. Steelers hoping to get him under contract for the long term. Bengals still hoping to get Trey Hendrickson under contract for the long term. These two situations are a little bit connected. They're both 30-year-old players. And Hendrickson, of course, coming off 2 highly productive seasons. Bengals have been hesitant to guarantee money in future years, given Hendrickson's age and their long-standing policy against that. But we'll see. If Watt's deal gets done, it might be another helpful data point for Hendrickson. Former Ravens kicker Justin Tucker, who is now not with any team, is a free agent. The NFL announced yesterday Tucker was suspended for the first 10 weeks of this coming season. This is as a result of a personal conduct violation. Tucker facing multiple allegations of sexual misconduct from massage therapists. He could sign with the team and play in the preseason, but then once that preseason's over, he'd have to stay away for the first 10 weeks and wouldn't be able to join that team until week 11. And then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers announcing contract extensions yesterday for their head coach Todd Bowles and their general manager Jason Light. This is a pairing that's been highly successful together. The Buccaneers have won 4 straight division titles, and the year before that, they were a wild card team that won the Super Bowl. So well-deserved extensions for the Brain Trust there in Tampa, and they will continue together for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. What are your expectations for him in year 2?
Yeah, Hannah, they're high. Bo showed some really good things on film this past season. I thought his downfield vertical passing was excellent in the second half of last year, but I don't think we talked nearly enough about the Broncos' offensive line, which is in a league that is covered so exhaustively, not something you can say very often, but they were the #1 NFL offensive line, and not just run block win rate, but also pass block win rate, and by a lot. They were at 74% last year. Only one other team in the league was even above 70. That was the Vikings at 72.2%. They have all 5 starters expected back this year for that offensive line. They reinvested in veteran left tackle Garrett Bowles. To me, a lot of reasons to be optimistic about this Denver team, because a position that we always find ourselves talking about where teams don't have enough talent or enough depth in October, November, and December, the Broncos are about as well positioned as anybody in the entire league at that offensive line spot.
I think you're absolutely right, Phil. I think their roster is loaded. When you look at what they've done here since Sean Payton got there, I mean, look, the young receivers they've drafted to go with Cortland Sutton. You mentioned the offensive line. They bring in Evan Ingram, the tight end. He should be a huge help to Bo Nix. Overhaul the running game with J.K. Dobbins and their second-round pick, R.J. Harvey. The defense adds 2 guys from the 49ers, Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga, to a defense that already includes the Defensive Player of the Year in Pat Surtain and another guy, Nick Bonito, that finished in the top 10 in Defensive Player of the Year voting. We talked about the Chargers earlier. I think the biggest threat to the Chiefs in their division is this Denver Broncos team.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And Mina Kimes, she rated the top defenses, and she had the Broncos at #1 going into the season. Adam Schefter is bringing us his take on some of the biggest storylines of the NFL offseason. And today, he takes us inside the Lions offseason, which has come with a lot of changes.
It's a simple word, but what weight it carries. It defines our coach, our team, our city. Grit.
Despite the fact that they're one of only 4 current NFL teams and the only one in the NFC never to appear in the Super Bowl, no one paid a higher price for success this offseason than the Detroit Lions. Even though Detroit failed to win a playoff game, the Lions were treated like they did.
I think Aaron Glenn is the right fit for any team that needs a head coach.
This is a very big deal for Ben Johnson. We know that he's a brilliant offensive mind.
The Lions lost 8 assistant coaches this offseason, including both their coordinators, with former Detroit offensive coordinator Ben Johnson becoming the head coach of the division rival Chicago Bears, and former defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn becoming the head coach of the New York Jets. It wasn't just coaches either, it was players. Perennial Pro Bowl center Frank Ragnow retired, guard Kevin Zeitler left for Tennessee in free agency, cornerback Carlton Davis departed for New England, defensive end Zadarius Smith was released, and yet despite losses normally reserved for championship-like teams, the Lions are talented enough to run it back again this season and try to improve upon the franchise record 15 games they won last season when they led the NFL in scoring for the first time since 1954.
It becomes a waste if you're not trying to, reach perfection and strive for that. And we know what our potential can be.
And we may roll it all the way down the table just like this. You find a way to win the game.
But there are challenges that go beyond their losses that won't make this season any easier. Per ESPN analytics, the Lions had the NFL's second hardest schedule, with 7 of their 9 road games coming against playoff teams.
This is what great teams do. This is what great teams do.
The NFC North is the only division in the NFL in which all 4 teams have at least a 35% chance of making the playoffs. And the Lions can be as salty as they want to be about it. But until they wipe away the distinction of being the last NFC team to ever appear in a Super Bowl, their business remains unfinished.
Thanks, Shefty. Graz, you spoke with Detroit's GM, Brad Holmes. What do you say about losing the coordinators?
Yeah, earlier in the offseason, had a chance to ask him about, what's your level of concern around that? And he said he doesn't have any because they're very happy with who they were able to go get. They're very happy with their internal promotions. Kelvin Shepard, the new defensive coordinator, is somebody who's been there, and they feel like he's ready for his chance. They knew they were going to lose Ben Johnson at some point. They thought they were going to lose Aaron Glenn at some point, too. So they've been preparing for this. And I think what you hear when Brad Holmes talks about this is his faith and belief in head coach Dan Campbell and his ability to develop coaches the same way he helps develop players on the roster. He really feels like Campbell puts these guys in the best possible position to succeed, gives them more and more responsibility as they can take it, and he feels like the coaches that come through the ranks there in Detroit are well prepared when they get promoted.
Yeah, Hannah, I think it will be disingenuous to not at least acknowledge at the beginning of the season if there are changes and if the offense does not come out with its same level of prolific scoring in the beginning of the year like it has for the past couple of seasons under Ben Johnson. At the same time, if I've learned one thing about this Lions franchise under the direction of Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, it's that they deserve the benefit of the doubt, especially when making audacious moves. They didn't make the audacious move. Those two gentlemen were hired elsewhere, but a transition that I think many would see as a challenge, I think the Lions are embracing with a ton of internal confidence. And I'll say this, the defense, other than the fact that they're way healthier, it's just more talented this year as well. I thought the upgrade of DJ Reed, that second cornerback spot, to play in place of Carlton Davis is one that will help this defense look much more like it did at the beginning of last season.